Hey, this video is going to go over the cosine law and how to use it. All right, so first thing that we want to do is look at what the cosine law is. So the cosine law will read a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c multiplied by cos of a. When we look at this formula, there's two things that I want us to remember. Whenever we see a lowercase letter, this is going to indicate a side length. Wherever we see a capital letter, that's going to indicate an angle. So we're going to input three side lengths. So we're going to have A, B, and C, and these are going to be different sides of a triangle. And then we'll have cosine of capital A. So what's really important is that we know the difference of kind of which numbers go into which spots of this formula. On the left side here, I have a triangle. What I notice is that capital B is across the triangle from lowercase b. So angle B will be across from side B. What we notice is that this is also happening with C. Capital C is across from lowercase c. So angle C corresponds with side C. Capital A across from the triangle would be side length A. So this particular formula right now would be solving for this side. It's the lowercase a is equal to. One other thing that I want you to be really careful with cosine law is that this has been stated as a squared. So when you go and plug all of your numbers in, the answer that we get, we have to remember to square root before we actually get to our final answer. So what's going to be really key is when you're doing word problems or anything that you have to create your own diagram, it's really important that you know how to label the triangle. Let's try an example. Here's our first example. In triangle ABC, angle A is 36 degrees, side B is 35 meters, and side C is 45 meters. Find the length of side A rounded to the nearest tenth of a meter. Okay, what we're going to start with is drawing a triangle. I'm not really picky about how I draw my triangle. I just have my triangle. I label my vertices as A, B, and C, and then I label my sides. Capital A is going to be across from lowercase a. Capital B is going to be across from lowercase b. And capital C will be across from lowercase c. And then I just kind of fill in the information that I've been given. Angle A is 36 degrees, so we'll input that into our triangle. Side B is equal to 35, so this is equal to 35 meters. And side C is equal to 45 meters. Then what we're trying to figure out is find the length of A. This is what we're solving for, and we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. Let's first start with our formula. We have a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of a. So a squared will be equal to 35 squared plus 45 squared minus 2 times 35 times 45 times cos of our angle, which is 36 degrees. When you go to plug this into a calculator, you want to be really careful, particularly kind of with this section here. What you want to make sure is that your calculator is going to subtract this entire piece. So in order to do that, what I like to do in my calculator is, especially if I'm using a graphing calculator, I will input the subtraction sign, and then I put brackets around this entire piece just to ensure that it subtracts the whole number. So let's try plugging this into our calculators and see what we get. What I get when I put this into my calculator is that a squared is equal to 701.5964. What we want to be careful with is that this is equal to a squared. We want just a. So what I'm going to need to do is square root both sides. When I square root both sides, what I get is 26.487, and this is now going to be in meters. We want to round it to the nearest tenth, so it's approximately equal to 26.5 meters. And there's our final answer. Let's try one more question. Given triangle GHF, solve for the largest angle rounded to the nearest degree. What we want to solve for is the largest angle. As a rule, the largest angle is always going to be across from the longest side. So we're trying to solve for H. When I start putting this into my formula, so we have normally a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of a. Here's where we need to start relabeling things. My formula uses a, b, and c. However, I have a triangle that does not use a, b, or c to label its angles and sides. So what I want to do is first figure out, okay, where should h go? H is what I'm solving for. So that needs to be replacing cos of a, which means that its corresponding side, which is 3.1, is lowercase h, and that should be replacing a in my formula. So here we're going to have h squared equals. B and C, the order of them don't really matter. As we know, 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2. 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. So the order that we label the other two sides really doesn't make a difference. 1.7 is going to be lowercase f, and 2.8 is going to be lowercase g, because they are across from those corresponding angles. So the order I write these in doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go f squared plus g squared minus 2 times f times g times cos of h. And now what I have is this formula, but however, here's where it's a little bit different than our first example. I'm solving for an angle. I'm not solving for the side length. So I now need to manipulate this formula and get h by itself. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract off f squared and g squared from both sides. When I go to rewrite my formula, on the left side of the equal sign, I'm going to have h squared minus f squared minus g squared. On the right side, these two things are canceling, and what I'm left with is negative 2fg cos of h. What I'm trying to do is get cos of h by itself, so I need to get rid of the negative 2fg. All of these things are being multiplied to cos of h, so the opposite of that would be dividing. So I want to divide both sides by negative 2fg, divided by negative 2fg. On the left, what this is now going to create is an equation of h squared minus f squared minus g squared, all divided by negative 2fg, equals, on the right side, all of this stuff is canceling, and now I'm just left with cos of h. And now I'm ready to put my numbers in. So h is 3.1, so we'll have 3.1 squared minus 1.7 squared minus 2.8 squared divided by negative 2 multiplied by f, which is 1.7, multiplied by g, which is 2.8. And this will equal cos of h. Let's try plugging this into our calculators. If you're going to try to put this all in one step, what I encourage you to do is to put brackets around the numerator and the denominator. Otherwise, there's some weird things that may happen in your calculator where it's only dividing certain numbers. We want to be making sure that the whole numerator is being divided by the whole denominator. So let's plug that in. What I get here for an answer is 0.11764, and this is equal to cosine of h. To get just angle h, I need to take the inverse cosine of both sides. So I'll have cosine of negative 1, or arc cos, of 0.11764. And then on the right side, I just have h. When we plug this into our calculators, what we're going to get here is 83.2436 degrees. And it wants us to round this to the nearest degree, so our final answer will be roughly 83 degrees. Let me know if you have any questions.